Stress is all around us. Few people are immune to the stressors of everyday life, and according to a recent poll by the American Psychological Association, a majority of Americans report that stress is a major problem for them. Excessive and prolonged stress impacts work productivity, job performance, and job satisfaction. In fact, prolonged stress can affect health and the overall quality of life. While stress is a problem in many jobs and occupations, there is, however, one occupation that creates more stress than virtually any other, and that is the job of being a correction officer. According to Dr. Kevin Gilmartin, an expert on stress and corrections and law enforcement, and author of the best-selling book Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement, the constant and prolonged state of hypervigilance experienced by correction officers each and every day is the cause of many physical, emotional, and social problems experienced by this group of dedicated men and women.
Every day to go into work where there's potential risk for that corrections officer or that police officer. And what the human body does when they're in a risk situation is they enter into an elevated state of alertness. We call it hypervigilance in the book. So what happens is these officers become terribly engaged at work. They're very vigilant at work, they're watchful at work. Their officer safety requires them to interact with the inmates from a safety perspective. But that's a very challenging physical, neurophysiological phenomena. So when the officers leave work, they go into this exhaustive type state physiologically. It's a depressive-like state.
In a recent survey, over 68% of correction officers reported that they had experienced high to very high levels of job-related stress on a regular basis. Job-related stress has been shown to have a direct impact on the personal lives of many correctional officers and their families. According to the research, along with everyday accounts from professionals in the field of corrections, it is clear stress affects the work, health, and home life of thousands of correction officers across the country.
Well, my father actually, he had a stroke in his mid-50s, a massive stroke. And, so firsthand, I could see what the accumulation of stress did for my father, and he didn't have time to exercise, and he didn't have the energy to exercise. We all medicate with food and just kind of, like I said earlier, just having that isolation, and that becomes kind of over time a bad mixture.
The research on stress and correction officers is clear. Consider these sobering facts. Each year, inmates assault over 30,000 correction officers. The average lifespan of a correction officer is only 59 years. Divorce rate for correction officers is 2 times the national average, and they have a higher than average incidence of drug and alcohol abuse, domestic violence, health issues, and emotional problems, including a high rate of suicide. In spite of these facts, many correction officers do not experience the negative effects of job-related stress. They enjoy their work well with management and co-workers, and, in the end, retire and live a long and satisfying life. In the next few minutes, you'll learn about how you can take control of your stress response and become more stress resilient. But before we talk about these stress resilient strategies, let's look at the stress response, what it is and how it affects the body, health, and work. Then we'll identify the key stress warning signs you need to recognize before stress becomes distress. If you know your warning signs of chronic stress, you'll be better prepared to prevent stress from having a negative impact on your health, work, and personal relationships. While the building of stress resilience is one component of preventing or managing stress, which is the focus of this video, it's also important to recognize that correctional facilities can do much to prevent stress from occurring in the first place. They can, for example, modify and improve the work environment and working conditions, increase correction officer to inmate ratio, involve staff in decision-making, and make health promotion and protection resources available to officers. So, what is the stress response? The stress response is the body's built-in way to defend itself against dangerous and harmful stressors. When the stress response kicks in due to some perceived threat or danger, powerful stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline are released into the blood. These hormones increase blood sugar, blood pressure, heart rate, perspiration, and muscle tension. The stress response also suppresses some systems like the immune system, production of protective T cells, the ability to reproduce, digestion, and more. The dangerous threats of the past, like saber-toothed tigers, are mostly gone. But correction officers do work in a world where injury and death are as real as the lion in the jungle. The good news is that the stress response and high levels of hypervigilance can be reduced if action is taken to reduce and calm the body.
Many people are fairly naive when they enter this field about what the realities of corrections are. It's a very challenging, emotionally demanding job. And when we talk about stress management, what we're really talking about is teaching these people that have chosen corrections as their profession to stay emotionally fit and physically fit. And that means overcoming that level of just detachment after work each day, that exhaustive type state, because it's not really being tired, it's the physiological after effect of prolonged alertness. We have to educate them on this and how to break that cycle.
The key to stress resilience is to recognize your stress warning signs and then act to minimize the negative impact. There are several places to look. First, look to see if stress is affecting you physically, such as in your body and health. Or you can look at behaviors. How someone behaves is a reflection of inner stress. And finally, stress can be felt inside, in feelings and emotions. Stress is felt first inside of us. We all know these feelings: anger, frustrations, disappointments, anxiousness, hypervigilance, burnout, and depression. Second, under prolonged or chronic stress, physical problems can appear. They can be seen and felt in head and neck pain, back pain, weight gain or loss, respiratory problems like asthma, insomnia and sleep disturbances, colds and flu, digestive problems. The most common behavioral expression of stress is anger and aggression that's often seen in physical and verbal abuse.
One of my kids came up to me one day and said, "Dad, why are you so mean?" Those are his exact words. "Why are you so mean?" "I'm not mean." Snapped right back at him. "I'm not mean." "Dad, you're doing it again. You're mean." My kid made me realize that everything that the job put into me, I was keeping in. I was not letting it go on the way home.
Because the warning signs of stress are often different for each of us, it's important to know and recognize your own personal signs of stress. Once you realize you're under stress, the next step is to take immediate action and make some changes that will engage the relaxation response and reduce the damaging effects of stress. There are many ways to manage stress. Let's look at 6 proven effective ways that you can reduce and master your stress. First, learn how to reduce your level of stress. Second, learn to become more mindful. And third, change self-talk, or how you talk to yourself in your own mind. Fourth, create balance in your life. Fifth, re-energize your body and mind. And last, seek help. When stress is chronic, or when you cannot seem to feel relaxed or at ease, it's time to learn how to engage the relaxation response. Dr. Herbert Benson, author of the best-selling book called The Relaxation Response, describes the relaxation response as a physical state of deep rest that changes the physical and emotional responses to stress. The quickest way to have an impact on stress levels is to take deep, diaphragmatic breaths. Jack Mace is an expert in Tai Chi and mindfulness training. Here, at this training facility, he explains the value of using deep breathing as a way to immediately bring down stress levels.
So if you are finding that you're getting home stressed and you're leaving the house stressed and you're just the drive home is stressful, work is stressful, you'll get into habits. And so you have to maybe include some of the breathing techniques of Tai Chi, some of the mindfulness of Tai Chi into that routine. So one example is maybe when you first come home from your work, sit in the driveway for 5 minutes. And before you leave your car, sit and be calm, turn the car off, and take 5 minutes and take 10 breaths. 5 seconds inhale, 5 seconds exhale. And after 10 breaths, then gather your things and go in the house.
Correction Officers and Stress, a guide to becoming stress resilient. Stress is by moving your thoughts away from the worries and fears in your life to something non-stressful and relaxing. Stress levels are reduced and you feel better. Here are the steps on how to meditate. Remove distractions. Sit or lie down. Start breathing deep and slowly. Expect your mind to wander. Choose a point to look at or select a sound to repeat to yourself. Keep breathing deeply. When your mind wanders, that's okay. Just bring your thoughts back to your focus point, your breathing or the sound you like. Research has shown that when people make meditation a part of their life, there is a significant reduction in overall stress levels and the quality of one's life is improved. Yoga, like Tai Chi and meditation, integrates breathing techniques with focused attention to yield amazing results. In yoga, however, the emphasis is calming and strengthening the body through stretching exercises and relaxing the muscles and organs of the body. In just a short amount of time, yoga reduces stress levels and produces an overall sense of balance and calm. Exercise more. Exercise uses the energy of the body to metabolize the stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. But with frequent exercise, the body burns up these hormones and you immediately feel better and more energized.
Corrections officers must be physically fit people. They must be physically fit people to do this job and reduce stress. And yet most correctional officers are not physically fit people. The vast majority of correctional personnel will gain weight. The reason they gain weight is not because they're lazy. It's not even because they over-consume calories. It has to do with the physiology, again, of alertness. When someone goes into alertness, then when they leave that, what the body does through cortisol is they start storing weight. They start packing away the calories. It's one of the reasons our corrections officers are high risks for type 2 diabetes and high risks for heart disease.
It really doesn't matter what exercise you do. The important thing is to do something every day to move and energize the body. The second way to reduce stress is to become more mindful. Learning how to be mindful is extremely popular and is being taught in corporations, nonprofit organizations, government agencies, and even the Marines and Army. Time magazine's recent cover story was called The Mindful Revolution, the science of finding focus in a stressed-out, multitasking culture. One of the experts in mindfulness training is Shannon Elhart, founder of Green Heart Mindfulness in Michigan.
While exercise uses energy and movement to metabolize stress hormones and bring down the level of stress in your body, mindfulness is different as it uses your mind to relax your body and your thoughts. And what's great is it's available all the time. Your mind is almost constantly in a state of thinking. The practice of mindfulness is remaining focused on one thing and having that one thing be in your current moment or in the now. What is important to understand when learning mindfulness is that your thoughts are only in 3 different time zones. They're either reliving the past, or they're anticipating events in the future, or they're in the now, in the present moment. When someone is thinking about the past, they're usually wishing things were different or better, or wondering if things will ever be as good as they used to be. And that results in them feeling regret or blame or anger or even a longing. When someone is thinking about future events, they're usually wondering if everything is going to be okay. And that results in worry, fear, anxiety, or trying to control the future. When someone is living in the present moment, there's really rarely a reason to be stressed. In fact, in a true high-stress situation, let's say an inmate is coming at you with a knife, you go into an unconscious state of thought, more of an autonomic response of fight, flight, or freeze. And once that inmate is subdued, that's when your conscious thinking kicks back in, and that is when you have a choice. You can choose to remain thinking about the past. You could feel angry or frustrated about what happened with that inmate, or you could think about the future and be worried or anxious about that happening again. Or you can return right to the moment, the current moment, where you realize you are safe now. To practice mindfulness, just practice keeping your thoughts on what is happening right now. For instance, if you're eating a meal, enjoy each bite without reliving your day or even years from now and bringing up emotions that are difficult to deal with. If you're exercising, be totally present in your body without worrying about tomorrow or worrying about years from now. When you're in nature, just be in nature and enjoy the sights and the sounds around you. And when you're driving home, drive home relaxed, listening to the music or enjoying the scenery, not letting the stress of your day come with you on the ride home. Mindfulness is a skill and a lifestyle. It takes practice, and it's a core component of living a stress-resilient life. It allows the relaxation response to engage and bring down any level of stress and anxiety.
The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven. John Milton. Yes, thoughts can be changed, redirected, and rewired to produce calm and a sense of well-being. When you realize that you can actually take charge of your thoughts, you will affect how you feel and behave.
Stress has a tendency to inflict pain, but it's the pain that is caused because you either allow it to or you exaggerate it to the point where it's making more of an impact that it really should.
The great American psychologist William James once said, "If you change what you think, you change your life." This is the core principle of mastering stress, and there are several ways to change your thinking to help you feel and function better. Here are 4 ways. In any stressful event or situation, rethink and ask yourself, am I just using feelings to draw this conclusion? Is my thinking reasonable? Redirect simply means to consciously make a decision to focus on something other than the problem or stressor you're experiencing. Another strategy is to reframe what you're thinking. Move your thinking from the immediate situation to a broader, longer-term view of the problem. Mentally take control and change what you say to yourself. Take a negative thought and reverse it to a more positive and enabling one, because what you think affects how you feel, which impacts all that you do and say. A balanced life is a less stressful life. If you're a one-dimensional person whose life is all about work and the majority of what you do and say revolves around that work, chances are your life is out of balance. As a result, the family, children, recreation, health, or even personal development are impacted.
Whether it is running a marathon or whether it is doing kakachikembo, karate, I mean, they seem to have developed hobbies that is totally opposite and disconnected from the workplace, and that's what you need to do.
Take time to be alone with your spouse. Play with your children. Spend time with close friends. Get a hobby. Volunteer. Grow spiritually.
When we can get correctional personnel exercising after work, we can get them socializing appropriately after work, we can get them engaging in their hobbies and their interests after work, emotionally, they're pretty intact people. Many of them can survive a very long, rich career in corrections.
Another part of building a balanced life is to take some time off to get re-energized. It's like rebooting a sluggish computer. Once restarted, it runs more smoothly and quickly. Challenge yourself to find a new, relaxing place to go. Do something new and different that will stimulate you. Relax with someone you love or care about and enjoy yourself. Each of these approaches to stress resilience will reduce stress, but sometimes the stress, anxiety, or even depression just doesn't seem to go away. This is when it's time to seek help, because correction officers are, by their nature and culture, resistant to seeking help.
There's a stigma associated with asking for help. Now, there are viable resources available out there that allows you to maintain some kind of anonymity or some kind of secure feeling about asking for help.
The sources for help are endless. Start with your spouse or friends. These sources may seem obvious, but many correction officers are even afraid to let their spouse or friends in on their secret problem. Employee assistance programs or a private counseling program are excellent places to go. Confidentiality is ensured, and you can receive the best help available.
The stigma comes from the culture. The culture says, if you can't hang, get out. Well, having stress does not mean you can't hang. It just means you've got issues that you need to deal with so that you can do a better job.
So, we've covered many ways to become more resilient and to keep the stress response from controlling your life. I hope that you've learned one thing that can help engage the relaxation response and help you to become more stress resilient. What's the best approach to take? Well, that choice is up to you. You can reduce stress through both exercise and aerobics or through deep breathing, Tai Chi, meditation, yoga, and more. Be more mindful. Change thinking. Take control of what you think, and you'll change your life. Bring balance into your life. Add dimension to your existence, and you'll have more energy. Re-energize yourself. Stress-resilient people find time to re-energize and regroup. Seek help and guidance. It takes inner strength to admit we're not perfect. No one is. Becoming stress-resilient is definitely achievable, but it requires practice and consistency. So choose one technique or approach and get started. You'll love the results. In the end, the relaxation response is up to you.